Hello, everyone, and welcome to Staff Picks. This is a WPL program where library staff from across the system get together and share their love of reading with you, the community. We want to start today by acknowledging that Winnipeg is located on Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Ojibwe, the Innu, the Cree, and the Dakota peoples, and is in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. Thank you for being with us here today. Each episode of Staff Picks has a theme, and Staff Pick a selection of books they've read and enjoyed to share with you. Today's theme is books we won't apologize for reading. That's pretty cool. Cue intrigue. There's music playing in my head. Every book featured is available in our library collection, sometimes in multiple formats and languages. And the books in every episode will be listed in a LibGuide that you can refer back to, and the link will be down here somewhere in the magic of YouTube. Wow. How does this work? In a round robin style, each staff member will take a turn talking about a book, and at the end there are lightning rounds of book presentations. We're very so we're going to start with introductions, so you know who we are if you haven't seen us before, in the order we're presenting. So I get to talk more. Hi, I'm Courtney, and today we're going to tell you where we like to read in the summer. I like to read either in my backyard or on the beach.
And I am Meg. My pronouns are she, her. I like to read everywhere in the summer, but I will say my patio is probably my favorite. We have a big comfy chair and a garden in one corner, and it's quite lovely.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lori, and my favorite place to read any time of year, but especially in the summer, is on the deck in my backyard. I have been known to be out there when it is minus 40 and freezing various body parts, but I'm still out there.
Excellent. All right. You now know who we are. You now know what we're doing and how we're getting there. So with that, let's start. Once again, I'm starting, so I'm talking more. Y'all so lucky. Okay, first pick of this program for me is the first book I actually read this year. And that is Impossible Creatures by Catherine Rundle. Oh, look at that cover. If you're seeing this, that is a dragon and a little baby griffin. Oh, no, that's mirrored down there. And then a magical cloak up there. Anyway, let's get into why you should read this book. This is a junior fiction book, yes, in the genre of fantasy. If you've seen this before, you're not surprised by that coming from me. This is the first book of the Impossible Creatures series. So the next book, The Poison King, comes out in September. We have this in print, ebook, audiobook, and in French print. It's about 368 pages. This is a very popular book this year. It is on a lot of lists for a good reason. It's quite good. So the tagline I would use for this book is, "It was a very fine day until something tried to eat him." Like, yeah, see, they're intrigued. Him being Christopher, the main character in this book. And that day was the day he rescued a drowning baby griffin from a hidden lake, and that changed his life forever. So while he was visiting his reclusive grandfather, Christopher witnesses an avalanche of mythical and magical creatures just like coming down a hill towards him. And he's like, okay, what's going on here? This is how he learns his grandfather is actually a caretaker of a magical place, like adjacent to our world, called the Archipelago. And on this magical place, there are magical creatures, and he's in charge of taking care of them. And they thrive alongside, but separate from humans. And while this is all going on, he's learning about all these magical things, he meets a girl named Mal, who is on the run and desperately needs his help to save her world. Ooh. Start to finish, this book is a dragon ride with many emotional highs and lows. Characters are well developed. They are likable. The pace of this plot is steady with intense action scenes that move the story nicely along. You kind of like don't feel like it's that big. You just kind of like, you read it and whoa, that was great. Though the book has elements of sadness and loss, it also contains like a lot of hope with fresh language, epic stakes, bonds that are referred to as both tender and devastating, and fierce kid characters. Awesome. Publishers Weekly called it a thoughtfully lore-informed narrative about the kinship of living things and the marvels of being alive. A story that is above all that takes children seriously. Isn't that lovely? Kids deserve that with their books. So overall, this book is like said to be an epic fantasy with timeless themes and unforgettable characters. But why did I pick it? I picked it because it's the first book I finished this year. I've been having a hard time getting into reading. I've been having a bit of a year. And this book was so good. It got me jazzed. It got me going. There is no shame in my game. I read a lot of junior fiction because it's good. And I feel that junior fiction and YA has really come a long way from back in the day when it was just like Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys and there weren't a lot of options. And there's a lot of these stories that give us a really good worldview of what kids are experiencing these days. And it gives them kind of a roadmap of how other people live. There's diverse themes, there's diverse topics, there's diverse everything. And we love that because that reflects our world and teaches humans how to be humans, even if they're adults. So the moral of the story is not to be put off by the age range of a book because you're going to be missing some good books. Escaping into a kid's world of fantasy with dragons, it's not a bad idea. Also, cover, hello, more dragons. Love dragons, right, Lori? Lori's got a dragon in her office. It's great. Also, you'll find on the back of this book, a lot of the authors I like are recommending this book. That's also how I sometimes find a book. Honorable mentions, gonna read the second book that she's writing. People compare this book, other reader likes The Hobbit, The Golden Compass. These are some classic things. And also on my side, The Girl Who Circumnavigated Fairyland and in a Ship of Her Own Making. And that's Impossible Creatures. It's your turn now, Meg.
I will admit that has been on my list because I've seen it on so very many lists. So now I just really have to read it. My first pick is Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall, sometimes Alexis J. Hall, depending on the title. When we first, came up with the theme, books I want to apologize for, romance, of course, came to mind right away. I will not apologize for anything I read, but so often when I'm helping people in the library, they're like, "Oh, I'm just looking for the romance books." And I'm like, "You say those romance books with pride. Like, you can read what you want. And if it's an enjoyable romp in London, like Boyfriend Material, go for it." So, Boyfriend Material is Alexis Hall's probably most popular title, but they are becoming increasingly popular these days. This is probably the one I would say that like skyrocketed their career, and it is clear why. So imagine like if you know Bridget Jones's Diary, the movie, this is like a modern day version with a younger cast and a dashing young gay man as our main character. Bum, bum, bum. And to use the popular term, which they do use in this book, he is a bit of a disaster gay, if you know what that means. So, young man who's finding his way, let's say. Yeah, so much fun. I rarely laugh out loud while I'm reading, but multiple times I'm like on the bus trying to stifle my laughter while I was reading this one, which is always hilarious because then, people are kind of look at you and I'm like, you should read this book. Thank you so much. So, our main character is Luke, a young man who works in fundraising for a not for profit. He is also the child of two mega famous music icons. So, he suffers the attention of the paparazzi and often ends up in the tabloids. Unfortunately, the story starts after he's been dumped because his previous long term boyfriend sold their story to the tabloids with all the sordid details. The story went viral. It really completely upended Luke's life. So he's not in a great place when we start. To make it even worse, the not for profit he works for finds out, and donors start pulling money, like a lot of money. So they're really struggling. His boss, in a horrible, not at all legal move, says, basically, "You're the wrong kind of gay. Get a good boyfriend and you can keep your job." Which, yeah, perfect reaction. All the friends are like, but Luke's just like, "I need this job. It's all I have. So I guess I'm looking for a boyfriend." which is, as I say, you just go with it. It's just fun. Of course he is. So he gets his friends together, starts the group chat. He needs a boyfriend that meets the right standards through his quote token straight friend, Bridge. He's set up with Oliver, an upstanding lawyer who also needs a boyfriend to make aspects of his life easier. So, of course, they agree it's all for show. They're going to go on enough dates to be seen by the paparazzi, going to go to the necessary functions where they both need to look good. No emotions, no romance. At the end of it, they part ways. Or will they? I will admit, the trope of fake relationship to real relationships is one of my favorite. I just find it so delightful when they're like, I'm not falling in love. And you're like, you're falling in love. We can all see this. I, you know, spoiler alert, I guess, but book 2 is called Husband Material. So, maybe they end up together. I don't know. I'm just saying you'll have to read it. As well as the adorable, if predictable, plotline, the story weaves in some heavy topics in a very good way that keeps them light. So, particularly topics for the 2S LGBTQIA plus community that we'll find unfortunately similar, like big conversations about family acceptance, being the right kind of gay. As much as we laugh about that, there's a huge amount of pressure to be the right kind of gay, celebrate in the right way, all this kind of stuff that the book touches on as some of the characters may or may not be comfortable, you know, putting on rainbows for pride and things like that. That's not how they show their pride and who they are. And of course, navigating how you create your own rules in a queer relationship. So again, they do a really good job of weaving these topics into the very light story so it doesn't feel heavy as you're reading it. The book also does a great job of transporting us into London, the very like fancy side of London, which is just always fun. And speaking of fancy, if you haven't read Alexis Hall, one of the best things about their writing is this beautiful, expansive vocabulary. So the sentences kind of wind through in this delightful way that makes these books a very fun read aloud. So I will admit, we have read them aloud at home because they're just a lot of fun and read out loud exceptionally well. So as I mentioned, this is boyfriend material. The sequel is husband material, which you can see behind me. And coming this summer is father material. I'm so excited. So not out yet, but once it's out, we will definitely have a copy here at the Winnipeg Public Library. And I'll pass it on to you, Lori.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Meg. This was terrific. And actually, I feel like, once again, not only am I following you on this recording, I am following you on my book choice, Finding Mr. Right. So I am a relative newcomer when it comes to reading romances. I've had similar experiences with folks saying, oh, it's kind of a whisper. I'm looking for a romance. It's like, nope, you read what you read. Read everything and think about it. That's what life is all about. And I did a bit of a study last year of romance books in WPL, which really led me into this genre, which is not one that I'd ever really focused on before. Had a lot of preconceived notions, a lot of ideas about what romance novels are and what they bring, and they were all upended, which is wonderful. And this book in particular by Kelly Armstrong, Finding Mr. Right, is one of my favorites. It has a lot of the tropes that you were talking about, Meg, about the relationships, about the way people come together. Kelly Armstrong is a Canadian author who is probably more famous for writing books on supernatural creatures and unusual happenings and things like that. So this is a departure for her. I am very happy to say, though, that her writing has come through. She continues to delight with their characters, with her settings, with the whole way of bringing things together, with the humor that she has in her books. The very first line caught me. I need a, fill in the blank for that one, is our main character is Daphne, and she has written a romance novel. But she has run into the patriarchal wall of publishing where she's finding it really challenging to get her book read, let alone published. So she decides to create an alter ego named Zane. Zane is a manly man who is going to then put forth her book. And lo and behold, she gets accepted. The book skyrockets. This means that she has to go on book tours. This means that she has to have a photo of herself, aka Zane, on the back of the book. What's Daphne going to do? She puts out a call for an actor to play Zane, just with the idea that this would be like a series of still shots, headshots, that was going to be it. And then along comes Chris. Now, Chris is an out of work accountant who has run into some problems with some bad business deals, who needs money fast and figures, yeah, what the heck? I can be a man's man. I can show pictures, even though this is not my real personality. And he invents and leans into the alter ego of Zane. And over time, like they start off texting with each other, emailing, whatnot, move into phone calls. Then the paparazzi descends, as with Meg's pick. Darn those paparazzi, they get into everything. They come and Zane, aka Chris, has to move into Daphne's house in the Yukon and act as Zane, even though he has no idea how to chop wood, how to survive in any kind of a wilderness setting. He's very much an urban creature. So he winds up with Daphne coaching him from behind the scenes, doing interviews with the earpiece in and occasionally going off on his own little tangents, as people do. And eventually, of course, they do admit that they do have feelings for each other. There's a lot of crisscross back and forth. This fulfills a lot of the romance tropes, and I love it for that reason. I love a good pun, finding Mr. Right. Gotta love that. I just like the predictability of it. And this is something that I'm finding as I am getting older as a reader, and as the world just seems to be changing so very much and in ways that are not always ideal. It's great to have a read where you kind of know what's going to happen. It's comfortable. It's a warming thing, and the world needs more love. Really, bottom line, the world needs love of between people, and let's just bring that together and let's celebrate that. And why not? So, Finding Mr. Right. The next book is coming out, and Kelly Armstrong, highly recommend anything that she has written. And over to Courtney now.
So cute. Oh. Okay, well, we're going to go into cozy fantasy because I read fantasy for the same reason, for the tropes. Now, we did feature the first book of this in 2023. And this is a prequel to that book. So here I am yet again, breaking rules. This is Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldry. This was written in 2023. As I said, it's a fantasy, but they refer to it as a cozy fantasy, which I love that. I didn't even know that was a genre. Heck yeah. As I said, technically it's the second published book, but it's the prequel to Legends and Lattes, which is the series. So there's this one, a short story prequel called Pages to Fill, then Legends and Lattes, and the third book is called Brigands and Bread Knives, and that's coming out in November. Like, look at that orc. That's Viv. We're going to talk about Viv. I love it. Okay. We have it in print, ebook, audiobook, large print. It's super popular. This is also like a lot of people talked about this. It's 336 pages. It's not so bad. High fantasy, first loves, secondhand books. Check, check, check. Like, great. I'm going to be careful and not spoil this because it's popular and a lot of people, you should read it. It's cute. So it begins before Legends and Lattes, once again featuring Viv, everyone's favorite orc, but this time she's a little bit younger and earlier on in her journey. She is a battle-hungry orc trying to find her place in a mercenary crew called Rackham's Ravens, but she's wounded on a campaign and is forced to recuperate in a sleepy seaside village called Merk. And what's a thwarted soldier of fortune to do? Pick up reading. Like, duh. Wouldn't you? I would. So she's forced to spend her hours at a beleaguered bookshop in the company of its foul-mouthed proprietor. Love, like, whoever wrote this review is amazing. I'm just going to read this because it's great. It's not what Viv would have predicted, but it may be both exactly what she needs and the seeds of change she couldn't possibly imagine. There's romance elements, there's fighting elements, there's fantasy. We're talking about an orc. So like, I kind of forgot she was an orc partway through though. So there's that. Basically, it's a coming of age cozy fantasy with an atmospheric world and a plot driven storyline. Okay, why did I pick it? Because I was reluctant to read this orc book. Everybody kept talking about it. I'm like, is it that good? Well, it turns out when everybody loves and raves about a book, they're right. So I just waited long enough for two books, the prequel story, and I have an e-galley of the third book on my phone. So I kind of cheated because I'm blowing through all of these this year, but it's worth it. Other books that kind of read similar to that would be I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons, House on the Cerulean Sea by our favorite TJ Klune. And, Fourth Wing. I liked Fourth Wing. It was good. Not as, more spicy than this, though. That's spicy. That's spicy business. And on that, Meg, now you get to talk about something that isn't an orc, maybe. I don't know. You tell me.
Not an orc, I will admit, though that sounds amazing. I'm taking a turn to the serious with In Defense of Witches, The Legacy of Witch Hunts and Why Women Are Still on Trial. So not fantasy witches, we're talking the real life, the horrors that happened in the past, and how that relates to today. Yeah, honestly, witches are still a touchy topic, and honestly, the first time I saw this book and I was interested, I was like, no, because I don't know, it had that discomfort. And personally, when I feel that discomfort, I'm like, I got to sit in this discomfort and apparently read a 400-page book when I feel that so I can learn why. And honestly, the book kind of explained why. So, In Defense of Witches is written by Mona Chollet, translated by Sophie R. Lewis. Um, Mona Chollet is a renowned French journalist, author, and feminist. She was the chief editor of Le Monde Diplomatique from 2007 to 2022, which is one of the most highly regarded newspapers in the world, frankly. So she's pretty big business. It's a very brief summary. Women still suffer impacts of the witch hunts every day, and she's going to prove it. So that's basically what the book does. Before reading this, I thought I would have known the basics on this topic, but I had no idea how much the effects of the witch hunt still echo today. And this book shows you that they resound in every aspect of the lives of women, every day, in every way. It's truly incredible. So, Mona Chollet's approach is briefly outline the witch hunts, debunk some of the myths, and emphasize what really happened, then prove those events still frame the daily lives of women. Do you dye your hair? That's connected to the witch hunts. Did you give birth or deliver your child in a hospital? Connected to the witch hunts. Ever feel like the odds are stacked against you? Witch hunts. So the whole book is really her saying, is this aspect of your life difficult or unfair? Yes, it is. Let me tell you why this relates to the witch hunts and why all women are navigating this. And yeah, it's really fascinating and hard to describe. Um, it is very dense. So, it sounds like there's a lot here. There really is a lot here. So it was one that I kind of read, sat with, and it took a while to get through. But was really great. Like she writes it quite a quick pace. You can kind of tell it's coming from a journalistic background writing style, um, but not too hard. Like when topics get hard, she does kind of skip over them nicely. My one note, if you're considering reading this, is it does come from Mona Chollet's perspective and all of her research, and she is a white person in France, so it is a predominantly straight white coded book and perspective. So not that that's wrong, she's not pretending it's anything else, but I was kind of waiting for a representation of queer people, and I think there were like 2 mentioned in the whole thing. Which I was like, that's different. But she is specifically talking about the witch hunts and women. So just kind of keeping that in mind. Some of the highlights for me, I didn't know before the witch hunts, women had these incredible, rich social lives and so many places to gather and share knowledge. And that was just completely gone. The witch hunts, when they happened, also targeted cats. So, because cats were thought to be the familiars of witches, people would just kill cats, which meant there was a huge increase in rats and disease at that time, which was even worse because most of the healers had been on trial for being witches. So there was this massive bloom of disease because of the witch hunts. Before the witch hunts, women were primarily in charge of childbirth. So it is because of the witch hunts that medicine became a predominantly male field. Women started delivering in the hospital, and men were responsible for delivery, which they didn't have generations of women to rely on. So all of these things that we consider like normal, she's all like, let me tell you how that relates to the witch hunts. So fascinating. Okay, my favorite to end on a high note. Glinda is based on a feminist. That's right. If you know Wicked, the book, the musical, the now movie, which I live and breathe at this point. In the original The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, from 1900, the character Glinda was inspired by the author's relative, Matilda Jocelyn Gage. Gage is famously remembered for being an outspoken feminist. Again, this is from like late 1800s, early 1900s. She specifically advocated for the rights of Indigenous peoples and helped free Black slaves. She was later imprisoned for freeing so many Black slaves. She turned her home into one of the stops on the railroad leading to Canada. After she was released, she also famously read from the original witch trial documents to replace the word witch with woman to underscore what we now refer to as gender-based violence. Again, this is like 1890. This woman's amazing. So that's who inspired the character of Glinda. And Glinda was the first positive representation of a witch in popular media. Before that, they'd referred to as fairy or like magical princess. Glinda is definitively a witch, and she is a positive character. That's the first time we ever saw that. So, turns out Glinda is actually a super significant character, and this book will tell you why. So, I would recommend, if you want to learn more, kind of honestly about feminist lit and kind of shake up your perspective a bit, it's a great read. If you want to learn more about the witch trials, probably not the one. So the first section of the book focuses on the witch trials, but it really is more about like modern day, how those events impacted today. But it is a fascinating read. If you like Rebecca Solnit, Sharon Blackie, our kind of modern feminist literature, definitely recommend In Defense of Witches by Mona Chollet.
That one reminds me of On Our Best Behavior that I mentioned before, like looking into the past through a feminist lens and seeing things in a totally different light. That on my list. Your turn, Laura. You tell us more things now.
Wow, that was incredible. Thank you, Meg. That is just eye-opening just in that short synopsis. It just really it's inspiring in so many ways. Like I deliberately do not color my hair, and I've had it referred to as a badge of honor that you don't color your hair. And I never thought it was that big a deal, but it's interesting to learn that there are historical roots for something like that. I just figured it was a personal choice. But it is in some ways, and it does make more of a statement than I thought, which adds a little bit of flair to it. So for my next pick, however, we are going to go into the man that a lot of people love to hate, Mr. Stephen King. I have been reading Stephen King since I was a teen. I first discovered The Shining, the book, not the movie. And I've been fascinated ever since then. I have been publicly criticized when I was reading these books, like in school, on the bus or whatever. It's like, why are you reading that junk? It's going to rot your brain, etc., etc., etc. Well, I'm still here. Brain is still functioning reasonably well. And I still love Stephen King. And I'm not going to apologize for that. I will admit that he has written some books that I have enjoyed less than others, for sure, as all authors do. But he is consistently strong, in my view, in his short stories, which is why I picked this one to focus on today. You Like It Darker by Stephen King. Of course, there are a variety of story lengths and different things in this one. Read all of them, really enjoyed all of them. For me these days, it's great to read short stories because my reading stamina is not what it once was at this point in life. It comes and goes. And I like the short story aspect, being able to pick something up and have it hold my attention for a brief time. My favorite of these ones is probably one called Rattlesnakes. It's set in Florida on just during COVID. So there's a lot of elements of that going on. One of the things I also appreciate about Stephen King's writing is the Easter eggs that he puts in. So there are references to places like Duma Key, which he wrote another book about. But the key point in this one is Vic Trenton, who those of you that have read Cujo know that he was the father of Tad and the husband of Donna, who were trapped in the car by the dog. Sorry, no spoilers on that, I don't think, at this point. But this is going on now. Vic has now aged. He's in his 70s. He's vacationing in this home just at the start of COVID, just trying to recover from the loss of his wife. And there's a lot of references back to Cujo and what happened in the intervening years after the events in Cujo. But this focuses mainly on what happens to Victor when he encounters a woman pushing a stroller down the street, very friendly woman. In the stroller are 2 t-shirts, and the stroller otherwise is empty. And she's talking to the stroller as if the occupants were there. And Vic kind of looks askance at her and wonders what's going on. It turns out that this poor woman lost her twin boys to rattlesnakes. There were a nest of rattlesnakes near the house where Vic is staying, and she, ever since then, has kept it in her mind that these children are still alive, that they're still the same age that they were. And everybody in the community just is treating her very kindly and gently. Otherwise she's fine. So they just, okay, this is your coping with grief. As time goes on, he gets to know her a little bit. She makes apparently excellent cookies. And sadly, however, during the course of the story, she passes away. And she names Victor, or Vic, as her heir, even though she's only met him once or twice. And as time goes on, Victor discovers that he is heir more to than just her home. He is heir to the stroller, which is, dun dun dun, actually haunted by the spirits of these poor children. So this stroller is appearing, he's hearing voices, the stroller is appearing, it's making its way from her home to his home, and Victor has to find a way to cope with everything that's going on and to somehow exorcise these souls so that they can find some peace, and he can as well, before he winds up joining them. So Vintage King on this one, absolutely lots of thrills, lots of scary stuff going on. All of these stories have got some sort of a twist to them. In the afterword, Stephen King talks about some of the stories and their origins, not this one in particular, but he does mention one where he started it and had some notes jotted down on a scrap of paper that he didn't, and he came back to it after about 40 years and wound up writing the book, or writing the story that the notes were based on. So like I say, Vintage King, you can dip into it, you can read 1 or 2, great for if you have a shorter attention span. If you're looking for one of his big doorstopper books, go back to it, go back to Cujo, go back to some of his longer reads if you're in the mood. But for me, this summer, all about the short stories and all about King. All hail Stephen King.
The man just has like the diversity, the Shawshank, the Green Mile. I love the Gwendy, the button box. Like the offbeat stuff for King is really quite, he can really do anything. Because I'm not a horror person, but I've actually read quite a bit of him. Good one. Now, 2 books added to my TBR list. And look at what I already, like, look what's behind me, people. And that's like a third of what I have. You're just enabling me at this point. So let's go back to one of my first loves. Oh, The Blue Castle by L.M. Montgomery. Yeah. Also, in a true Meg fashion, because I went to PEI last year, here's my Anne. She's with me today, just to like sit. Also not ashamed of this. Haha. Things we're not ashamed of reading. Also, this is referred to as a romance. Right? Like, thank you. So this was first written in 1926. It's a fiction book. We have it in print, ebook, and audiobook. It's not as big. It's 218 pages. It is like the perfect slice of just book. Will Valancy Sterling ever escape her strict family and find true love? Okay, I can understand how you would think it was a romance book. Anyway, this isn't an unforgettable for me story of courage and romance, but like it's so much more than that. She's 29, she's unmarried, and she's never been in love. Okay, that's romancy. she's living with her mother and her overbearing and meddlesome aunt. They're both very strict. And she finds her only consolation is these forbidden books that she gets from the bookstore by John Forster. Oh, sorry, Foster. See, words. And her daydreams of her blue castle. Now, this is Valencia's imaginary place where she has princes and life is exactly how she wants it to be. Her dreams come true and she can be who she truly wants to be. In 1926, that was a different thing, right? So after getting some pretty shocking news from her doctor, she just goes rogue, which that's when things get good. And she leaves her family. She discovers a surprising new world full of love and adventure, far beyond her most secret dreams. Oh, look, a secret feminist pick by Courtney. Who saw this coming? Everyone. I picked this book because it's one of my favorites, by one of my most favorite authors. I was in Anne at age 9, and that was it for me. I've read pretty much everything that Ellen Montgomery has written, including most of her 13 series of short stories that span her entire working career, which they're great, by the way. In the past, I was a little afraid to read this in public because it wasn't this very nice cover that is very reminiscent of the settings in Muskoka for this book. It was like romancy with a lady and a boy on it. And as a teenager, that was not the vibe that I was trying to put off. So I kind of like this cover because it's just a little bit more nothing, but also it doesn't matter what the cover looks like unless it's beautiful and you love it, because it's about what the book is. So don't be put off by the cover. If it's a movie cover or whatever, there's lots of things that you would miss in this book if you didn't read it because of the old-timey romancy cover, right? So I'm so glad I powered through that and read it anyway. Some people are also reluctant to read older books. This still holds up, people, is a feminist work in this time. The romance isn't the crux, it's a coming crux. That's the word, crux. It's a coming of age story about finding yourself and letting go of the judgments and opinions of others to live your own way, getting over the fear and doing it anyway. That's what this book is about. And back in 26, from a lady, that was a different thing. And I just love the courage. I love the themes of feminism and risk-taking. There's a lot about family relationships, self-discovery, expectations, and self-confidence. There are good things to just read a feel-good story and be like, yeah, me too. So if you were not have read The Blue Castle yet, you should. It's good. And if you don't want to do that one and you've read Anne, she has literally a million books probably. The short story collections are really nice. And some of them are themed to Christmas or spooky or love or whatever. So we have a lot in the collection. So you can give that a try. But yeah, that's me waxing on poetically about The Blue Castle by Ellen Montgomery, which has been approved by Anne, by the way, just in case you were wondering. Okay, Meg, your turn.
I'm back. I like that Anne's here with us. I will admit I made a last minute title change and I'm so upset I don't have stuffies and all of the things that I have. But that title is the last one I'm talking about, not right now. My next book is I Hope We Choose Love, A Trans Girl's Notes from the End of the World by Kai Cheng Tom. So I read a lot of Kai Cheng Tom's books. I'm kind of taking a deep dive into feminist literature right now. So reading that in public may generate conversation these days that I honestly might not want to get into with a stranger. So that's why Kai Cheng Tom made my list. I have featured her writing before. You may remember she has written a wonderful children's book that makes me cry every time I read it. It's so beautiful. But today, I Hope We Choose Love. Basically is a call to action for social justice that focuses on love. What if we loved ourselves? What if we loved each other? What if we stopped trying to fight a big nameless void in the sky, so to speak? Stop getting against, the other people, us versus them, etc., and focused on love for everything. It is a wonderful collection of essays. It's about 150 pages long. I thought about removing my Post-its, but you can see how many parts of this book I was like, this is amazing. This is amazing. I have to come back to this. It's just really lovely. So, for example, we have essays on, social justice as a whole and how fractured it is right now, gender-based violence, um, her own experiences as being an invisible trans woman is what that essay is called. And then each essay has a poem in between. So you kind of read these essays that kind of start heavy, go into how that relates to the 2S LGBTQIA plus community, and then this kind of upswing into what if we focused on love? And then you have a poem, and then you go into the next essay. So again, like when I'm reading some of this stuff, and as I say, it can be quite heavy. This did not feel heavy, and those poems acted as a great little like breath of air. It was really, really lovely. So, for example, the essay focusing on the Me Too movement kind of introduces the movement, how it started, and then gets into some specifics, and then relates that into the queer community and how they were kind of left out of that conversation in a big way. And we don't talk about, frankly, the violence in same gender relationships and the fact that it is very prevalent and it doesn't get talked about as much. And then the solution of what if we loved ourselves? What if we loved ourselves enough to say, I'm walking away from this? What if we loved each other enough to say, I believe you and I'm going to support you? Let's focus on love. So it's just a wonderful message. Like Lori mentioned, these are kind of dark days. I don't know if anyone else is feeling that. I'm kind of feeling that. And this is just a lovely, like, love is the solution. Like, but let me tell you how. Love is actually maybe the solution. So, just a wonderful kind of uplifting look at social justice and how we can connect to each other and to ourselves and honor our own experiences. Very, very lovely. Kai Cheng Tom also has this writing style that is very simple, and I shouldn't say simple. I guess simple in the way that it's very accessible. Like it really feels like she's bringing you into the conversation for difficult topics, for ones that seem insurmountable. Like, let's just be honest, truly loving and embracing yourself, maybe it's just me, that's a big concept. Like, that is a big thing. And she makes it feel like it's accessible and shares her own experiences for saying, yeah, it's really, really hard. This is my journey. I'm kind of there. I've gone through periods where I'm there. I might not be there right now. Um, I really cannot sing her praises enough. Um, as the title implies, she's a trans woman of color. Her parents came here from China. So she really has a lot of experience, not just in community as herself, changing her whole life to better match who she is, but also her experience of being kind of the right kind of daughter for her family, which she does share kind of bits and pieces of. So if you like her writing, she has a number of books. I have another one behind me, Falling Back in Love with Being Human, which I believe is her most recent title. It's the most recent one I have read. It's another collection of essays, again, focusing on falling back in love with being human, who you are, who we are, and how we can make everything better. So would recommend I Hope We Choose Love by Kai Cheng Tom.
Wow, Meg, that is amazing. Another one that's got to go on the TBR list. And I must say, next time I'm not going to follow Meg anymore because you're just too hard to follow with your stories. That is so great. Thank you. My next pick is called Dreaming in Color. And I picked this one for multiple reasons, for partly because it's by Melanie Florence, who is an amazing Indigenous author. But part of the reason that I chose this one as well is because it's part of the ultra readable Orca series. It is something that it's high interest. The story moves along very quickly. I don't know if you can't probably see on the screen, but the print is dyslexic reader friendly. And part of the reason that I selected this is, again, because of the plot, but also this is a message that when I talk to people and there's people in my life that say, I don't want to read that kind of a book because people will tease me if you're in an age group where that's a dummy book. Sorry, not good language to use, but this is the phrase that kids hear, is that they're being teased because they are reading a book that is too easy. It's a baby book. It's not something that I should be reading. I should be reading something like War and Peace or whatever the equivalent is of for something like that. I am here to say, read these books. Don't hide the covers. Never hide what you're reading. So this book is the story of Jennifer, who has been working hard on her art for years. And she is so thrilled when she's finally accepted into a prestigious art school. And the school is great for the most part, but she is using a lot of her Indigenous heritage in her artwork. And she is getting teased because of that. She's being told, and this is a quote directly from the back of the book, to stop being so Indian. And Jennifer has to work through her feelings on that one. She has to prove herself and to everybody else that she does belong there, that what she is doing is right, that her heritage is indeed something to be proud of. And Jennifer is experiencing a lot of racism on multiple levels because she has got like the very Indigenous appearance. Her father does not. So a lot of folks assume that, oh, she's adopted. Oh, that there's something wrong with her, that she was taken from a family that couldn't look after her or something like that. Like it addresses a lot of really deep issues on a really well-written emotional level. There's a lot of really creative folks out there that need this kind of book, that need this kind of a window into somebody else's life experience. And reading is learning how to read, and being able to read it's a gift, and it can be a really challenging gift sometimes. And this is something that I feel is just so important with the stories, with the way, with the word choices and things like that. This is a great choice for any reader. Like I say, Melanie Florence has written books. She has written picture books for children. She's written some mostly juvenile books that I'm aware of. But along with what Courtney was saying before, you know what? Read everything. You're never too old to read something like this. Speaking as somebody who is experiencing some changes in her vision, this type of print can be a really good choice for you. But just anybody out there, read books, read the Orca books, read the books that you can find. That if you have some challenges in reading standard print, find the books. We have them. We have this book in audio. We have this book available in print, obviously. If you want to change the font on your Libby app or on any app, talk to the folks at the library. But do read this book, Dream in Color, Melanie Florence. Please read this book, and never, ever be ashamed of what you're reading.
Ah, Lori, that's so beautiful. Yes. Oh, now I have to read that book too. Okay, it's lightning time. So we're going to go fast, quick, hurry. Okay. Oddly, my lightning picks are both nonfiction. Who saw that coming? ADHD is awesome. A guide to mostly thriving with ADHD by Penn and Kim Holderness. This was published last year. Adult nonfiction, print, ebook, and audiobook, because neurospiciness needs some different ways to get things done. It's about 292 pages. I would show you the book, but it's so popular that I can't get it, which is great because I also have it as an ebook on my phone, because the nice little graphics are good and it splits things up. It's one you read in chunks. If you are neurospicy, that's kind of why it's done that way on purpose. It's good. Hi, friends. Welcome to the ADHD Club. That's kind of their whole jam. You may know Penn and Kim Holderness from The Amazing Race. They won season 33. Now they're content creators, podcasts. They have their whole production company. They do really fun videos. If you want to see Penn's ADHD in real life, that's what this is. So it's Penn's ADHD and how he hacks life, and how Kim supports him in that, and how their family functions. It's a relatable way to learn about ADHD or to support someone who has it. So Penn, he describes it as, the world is not built for ADHDers. Navigating can wear you down, let you in. It's actually a superpower. It's not a burden. You just have to figure out why things are happening and how you can switch them to make it work for you, to reach new creative heights and achieve more than you ever thought possible. Like, it's a big sell, but there are relatable little chunks in there. Just to have a new perspective for your brain or a friend or family member's brain, just learning about some strategies to make things a little bit easier, and you will laugh out loud a few times. Nothing wrong with that. The last line is pretty good. I'm going to try not to cry again because that's apparently the new thing that I do in this program. Most of all, we want you to silence that voice that whispers, oh no, I'm not going to do it. Okay, I tried. That you're broken or a mess or a failure, because none of that is true. You have ADHD and that makes you awesome. I was so trying to not cry this time. Obviously, I picked this book because I am a neurospicy human and I'm new to knowing that I'm a neurospicy human. So I'm trying to figure out how that works. It used to be my superpower, you know. So this is like a nice, approachable, fun way to learn about that and learn about neurospicy people, because honestly, we're everywhere. We're actually probably more prevalent than neurotypicals. But yeah, I actually did finish this book, which is impressive for someone with ADHD with nonfiction about a topic that they're like stressed about. And as I have ADHD, I have not read or finished the other ones that I'm going to recommend. But other books in the collection that are like similar to this but different are, they're on my TBR list, is ADHD 2.0, A Feminist Guide to ADHD, shocking, I know, and Succeeding with Adult ADHD. There we go. Now let's not make me cry anymore because this is just becoming redundant. And that wasn't fast. Meg, be better than me.
I'll have to specifically pick something that will make me cry next time. We'll just make this a thing. My next one, again, a pretty light choice. The Princess and the Grilled Cheese Sandwich by Dea Muniz. It is a YA graphic novel, about 230 pages. It is a standalone. That's rare for me. I tend to be the like, if you like this book, there's 20 after it kind of thing. So yeah, if you get a recommendation from me, be warned. There's usually a lot more kind of hidden in there, but this is a standalone. So many cheesy puns. And I mean that like literally. We have the Count Camembert, Princess Brie, the maid Feta, all in the kingdom of fromage. Like truly so many cheesy puns. And I just love it. That's one of those things like, you know, those really bad puns. I'm laughing so hard and everyone in the room is like, I don't care. I'm laughing. I'm happy. We're good. So it's humorous just on that level, but the story itself is also lovely and adorable with just enough twists and turns to keep you interested. It's a takes place in a fake historical Britain. Lady Camembert's father is ill. She has to wed in order to inherit the estate because women can't own property. However, Lady Camembert doesn't like men and tells her father she would rather lose everything and live on the street than have to marry a man. He is an awesome dad, listens, and organizes a plan. So once he dies, which happens right near the beginning of the book, he's got everything set up so Lady Camembert can move to the faraway city of Fondue and become Count Camembert, the sole son and heir of the Camembert family. All she has to do, dress as a man, lay low, be the count, but she just can't. She gets so bored. And then Princess Brie is throwing a ball and she really wants to go. So she goes and she meets Princess Brie and they like totally have a thing. So that's like actually kind of the story. Um, Count Camembert meets Princess Brie. They have a thing. Princess Brie is this like amazing activist and fashionista. They form a relationship, but Princess Bree starts figuring like, something's weird here. I don't know. There's a little drama. We have some exciting friends in there. And yeah, the story progresses from there. And maybe a grilled cheese sandwich is kind of the focus of their love. Super cute, punny, great cast. Dea Muniz briefly touches on the lives of women in this culture, how they do carve out what they can when they have no legal power. But overall, a cheesy romance. Couldn't help it. I would recommend to readers who like queer, cozy romance, period graphic novels with great costume illustrations, and just enough drama to keep you hooked.
Oh, you had me at puns and cheese sandwiches. So my choice is it's a nonfiction. It is a juvenile nonfiction. It is called Your Story Matters, a surprisingly practical guide to writing by Richard Scrimger. Richard Scrimger has written a lot of terrific books for kids, fictional books, and he also has ADHD. So he has got a lot of superpowers going on. One thing that I am learning as I've gotten older in life too is that it's okay not to finish a book, and that's where the juvenile books come in, because there is this part of me that must finish books. But shorter books, not no less impactful for being shorter, no less impactful for being written for children. I am also somebody who starts a lot of different projects with a lot of great enthusiasm, and then that tends to wither and die fairly quickly, or I get intimidated when I start looking at things that are written more for adults. This book, very practical, very good information on how to start writing, but it's written for kids. It's got some great illustrations. It's got good, solid advice that's written in simple language. I did finish this book, which is more than I can say for the 8 bajillion projects that are currently lurking around in my craft room at home. But I would highly recommend this one in particular, partly because Richard Scrimger is a hilarious writer, but also just to say, don't overlook children's nonfiction as an entry point. If you want to do something, you want to learn about something, start here.
Oh, I love it. I would tell you I'm not going to cry, but then you're going to see the title of the book. Renegade Grief. Subtitle is A Guide to the the Wild Ride of Life After Loss. I'm new to the Grief Club in this realm. Not happy to be part of it, but that's life, peeps. And I read weird stuff. I like to try to go off the beaten path a little bit. So this is an adult nonfiction. Obviously, we have it in print, 275 pages, not too bad. I go chapter by chapter because I'd have just taken things as they come. But here's the description though. From grief quests to Dungeons and Dragons to altar making to dinner parties. Renegade Grief is a profound and vulnerable explanation of care practices and rituals that empower grievers in a culture that expects us to simply give it time. Also, Mandy Patinkin and Catherine, I can't forget her name. Grody. That's Indigo Montoya, if you don't know who I'm talking about. And if you don't follow them on social, get on it. Recommend this book. So if for nothing else, listen to Mandy Patinkin. They know what's up. So Carla Fernandez wrote this book after her father passed. She didn't know how to deal with it. And she started something called the dinner party. And so she invited friends over and who had experienced grief, and they would talk about their loved ones. And it's like a whole movement. They have a whole thing. It's hosted in different cities. It really grew because people didn't have a support, or not everybody had a support organization that fit what they needed. So it was for young people, and they got together and shared food and community around grief. And like, how lovely is that? As a human, that's kind of what I've been looking for and look for now. So we kind of defy death in our culture. So this kind of just encourages us to explore the intensity and awfulness of loss and kind of just transform that into a connection, a personal purpose, a creative expression. It's not just about the loss of a human. It can be the loss of an idea, the loss of a life path. Like grief is really a lot more prevalent than we talk about. And so this is just a way to find your own unique way and dealing with grief in general, and that you're not alone. It's about any stage of the grieving process. It's very candid. It's very compassionate. It's not about getting to the other side or winning grief, because that's not a thing, people. Helps you find your community, adjust to change. What does it say? Finding the way for your grief to become a pathway to your own version of a soulful life. Plus the cover's pretty. Other things that I have on my TBR list that I'm working through, or grief is a sneaky B word. Dead people suck. And so sorry for your loss. So you can tell that I'm not doing the touchy-feely, griefy stuff. I am doing the hard the hard, snarky bits. But Renegade Grief so far, like, because I haven't finished it because I'm working on things, is great. So if you are looking for a book or books like that, there you go. And I wasn't fast again. I really am failing. Meg, save me again.
That's an excellent book, Courtney. I really, yeah, as someone who went down that path, I guess, on my own, seeking resources, great idea. And we really do have so many, like you say, you have a specific approach. Um, we probably have an approach that works for all of our readers. So there's a lot there. My next choice is super light and fluffy, though. Card Captor Sakura Clear Card Volume 1. Oh my gosh. I had to get a manga on this list because it is one that sometimes I hesitate to read in public, especially because I like the super frilly femme. Like, I just like it. It makes me happy. And there's so many wonderful options out there, but I had to choose Card Captor Sakura Clear Card. So, this is a continuation of the Card Captor Sakura series from the late 90s, which I also read and adored and still reread sometimes. In the original series, Sakura, who is right there, is a girl who discovers and comes into her magical power, specifically taming and using these magic cards. They embody various powers like wind, water, sleep, that sort of thing. So the cards are kind of like, oh my gosh, there's flooding over here for no reason. She goes, she's like, boop, with her little magic wand, and she can tame the card. It's a little more than that, but that's a very brief overview. The Clear Card series is a new continuation, so started pretty recently, is still going, and it picks off really where the original left off. So a bit of time has passed. Sakura hasn't needed to use the cards or her magic in a while. Her love interest, Sharan, has returned. She's just enjoying the quiet life until the cards suddenly kind of flutter about, do their magical thing, and they turn clear and they have no magic powers. So the original cast joins forces again to once again get the magic under control and get Sakura her deck. Part of what underlies the story that I really like is in the original, the cards belong to someone else. Sakura tames them. And then there's kind of a second part to the original where she has to bring her own power to them. And this is a continuation of that. So it's really about like reinventing and solidifying her power and this concept of like growing from those who came before us, which is lovely. And it's very frilly and pretty. And one of the things I like about manga is they're very frilly and pretty, and then they delve into these like very serious, intense topics, which Clamp does exceptionally well. This is one of Clamp's books. Clamp is a collaboration of 4 artists. They are a powerhouse in the manga and anime world, and they're so wonderful. So if you like Sailor Moon, other magical girl stories, definitely check out Cardcaptor Sakura. Also, if you like fruits baskets and the kind of shoujo genre, um, Cardcaptor has that classic style, close bonds among friends, and the main character who's super sweet and super strong.
Oh, once again, Meg, I'm regretting following you and Courtney as well. So many good picks and so many things that are touching on things that we have to all be together with, and just things that everybody can really relate to. Back to children's books, going right down into picture books this time, though. This book by Peter Reynolds is called I'm Here, and he writes such good books for children, but for adults as well. Yes, I'm here. I know I am. I am here. And such simple words, but there are points in life I think that we all experience, whether it's a grief path, whether it's a life change, where I can't read anything too long. I cannot read or embrace or understand anything that is just too much. And these books are so wonderful. I'm Here. He wrote Dot. He wrote Ish. These are such valuable books for any age. I bring these out when I'm having moments of serious self-doubt, when I'm in need of that comfort, when my brain just cannot read or take in a longer book, or that just needs these simple words, because that's just where my comprehension is at that point. So read picture books, especially read books by Peter Reynolds. I Am Here. If you are somebody who would like to start getting into visual arts, read Ish. read Dot. Read these books because they are empowering. Read these books to a child if you are lucky enough to have a child in your life. Read these books to an adult who needs them. Read these books to yourself when you need them, because we all have that child inside of ourselves that we still have to look after, that we tend to neglect. I feel like there's too much emphasis in this world on being an adult. Read picture books. Read I'm Here.
I love that, man. Dot and Ish, as a person who deals in a place like the Idea Mill Makerspace that has a lot of, you have to fail in order to learn. Those are like, well, and also as a human, because those are foundational lessons for all humans. I agree. So I think we really highlighted a little something for everybody today. So basic moral of the story, read everything. From WPL, that's our message. So we hope you enjoyed the program. There are lots of other staff picks with different themes in our episodes on our YouTube channel, so check that out. Thanks for watching, and we hope you're able to see our next offering of staff picks. See ya.